arithmetic series. An arithmetic series is formed by adding the terms of an arithmetic sequence. So in a sequence, you're going to see it written with commas, right? 1, comma, 3, comma, 5, 6, 7. With an arithmetic series, we replace the commas with plus signs. 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9, etc. We can find the sum of the terms of an arithmetic series, and we use a notation, S sub 1. So the sum of one term of the series. S sub 2, the sum of two terms. S sub 3, the sum of three terms, right? So S1 is equal to T1. S1 is T1 plus T2. S3 is T1 plus T2 plus T3, and so on. In general, S sub n will be the sum of n terms of a series. For the arithmetic series, 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9, S1 is 1. S2 is term 1 plus term 2, right? 1 plus 3, excuse me, or 4. S3 is 1 plus 3 plus 5, which is 9. What is S4? What is S5? You can actually say it out loud. Okay, S5, 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9. So to get to 16, I added 7. To get to the next one, I'm going to add
9.
And get?
25.
And what's S sub n?
N. N1 plus 8.
1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared. Okay. Now that works for this series, right? It's not like every series, oh yeah, okay, the sum is n squared, right? That's not the common thing. Okay. Two formulas for S sub n. S sub n is n over t, t1 plus tn. Use this formula if you know the number of terms. Okay. Now, both formulas, we need the number of terms. Notice they both have an n over 2. Both formulas, we need the first term, t1. Okay. Now, in the formulas, well, either we need the last term, t sub n, or we need the common difference. Okay. So use the top formula if you know the number of terms and the first and the last term. Use this formula if you know the number of terms, the first term, right? So that's common. You have to know the number of terms, the first term. In this one, you know the last term, and in this one, you know the common difference, right? D. Okay, for the arithmetic series, 6 plus 11 plus 16 plus 21. Determine the 50th term. And what they mean here really is determine the 50th term of the sequence, right? And then here is determine the sum of the first 50 terms. Okay. So for this series, you know, we still say, okay, T1 is 6. What's the value of D for this? Yeah, just pretend it's written with commas, right? It's 6, comma, 11. So D is 5. Okay, in this case, we want N is 50, and we want to know T50. Right? We want to know the 50th term, last term. Okay, so we start off with yesterday's formula. Okay, we want T sub 50, which is T1, which is 6. N is 50. And D is 5. Okay. Make sure your notation is correct, right? Like just don't write a 5 next to that, or negative 5, because then it would become subtraction. Okay, so we work it out. 6 plus 49 times 5. What's 300? 295? 301 maybe? I will rely on you to check. If I get this wrong, then I'm going to get this wrong. Determine the sum of the first 50 terms. Okay, so let's scooch up a little bit. That's wrong? Okay, what is it?
245 plus 6.
Oh wait, that's a 5, not a 6. 250, 245, 251. Good, thanks. I multiplied 49 times 6, not Determine the sum of the first 50 terms. Okay, now we can do this using either formula. As a matter of fact, we'll do it using both formulas, right, just to show you. So since we've worked out the 50th term, we now know the first term and the last term, right? If we hadn't worked out the 50th term, we still could have done this question. Okay, so let's do it having part A. All right, so we're going to say S sub n is n over 2, t1 plus tn. S50, yeah.
Well, that equation doesn't look like, isn't it 2t1? Oh, that's the one you did up there.
S sub 50,
No, you don't.
50 over 2. T1, first term is 6. T50, 251. Which equals, and somebody multiply that out.
So,
25 times 257.
The first equation. you used doesn't
6,420.
match the one.
6425? Just like it says, use this formula if you know the number of terms, first and last term.
How do you know the number of terms though? How do you know there's not more than 50? Sum of the first 50. So you don't know how many terms there are. There can be more than 50.
Yeah, but we're not trying to find this.
The sum of the first 50 terms. There are infinitely many terms in this series. It goes on forever. You can't find the sum of the middle 50. You could say, hey, there's 3,000 terms, find the sum of the middle 50. That formula is not going to work. This formula works for the sum of the first n terms, right, from t1 up to tn. All right, so if you had a series where you wanted to find the sum of the middle 50 or something, you'd have to go to the beginning of that and say, okay, this is t1, and that's t. Okay. Now the way we could have done this without doing part A, right, is to say, okay, so S sub n is n over 2, 2t1 plus n minus 1 times d. Okay, I want S50. It's 50 over 2. I know the first term, right? Just pretend this isn't here. I know the first term, so it's 2 times 6 plus, I'm finding the sum of 50 terms, so it's 50 minus 1 times 5. Okay, and that's in a set of square brackets, right? So this will be, 25 times. So when you're doing the terms, right, either this is even, in which case it's going to divide nicely and, give you a nice number, or it's odd, in which case the product of this and this will be even, okay, and then you'll divide by 2. So it's going to work out. So this is 12 plus, all right, see if I can do this one right. That's, 245? I can say 245, but can I write it? 245, which is 25. You match my pen. So it'll be 25 times 257. We were just here, right? 25 times 257. 6425. All right. So if this had added, like really these could have been reversed. I don't even know why part A is there. I guess just for a little review from yesterday of, hey, you got a sequence, find the 50th term of the sequence, right? Because we didn't need to do part A to do part B. Part B stands on its own. Using this, we could have just done this on its own, right?
So they're basically redundant.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you have that option. You could find, so given that says you could find the 50th term, but, I don't need it. I could just go straight to the sum. So key words here are sum or total, right? So when you have to use these formulas here, your keywords are the sum or the total, all right, as opposed to an individual term. Okay, any questions on this? Seeing none? Let's pop forward. If the first term of it, it's nice, they stuck the formulas. If the first term, you don't have to memorize these formulas, right? But you have to know which formula, which formulas are which. You saw the formula sheet. You're going to be given all of the formulas for sequences and series, but some will be for arithmetic and some will be for geometric, and you have to know which is which. And it's a little bit of practice. It's kind of obvious which one. if the first term is 12 and the last term is t21, which is 172, determine the sum of the series. Okay, again, I like to list out in the information I know. So the first term is 12, t1 is 12. t21, they told me, is 172. That makes n equal to what? 21, right? So we can add up 21 terms. And we want to find S sub n. And we don't know d, and we don't care. Right? So we're not going to use this formula. We're going to use this one. Right? First term, last term, number of terms. Perfect. S sub n, n over 2, t1 plus tn, 21 over 2, 12 plus 172, which is, I don't think we need any more detail, right? At this point, you can just write the answer down, which is 1932. It's a depressing year. Okay, questions? We're doing the sum of 21 terms, right? So if we add t1 plus t21, t1, t21, right, n is 21. 21 here, 21 here, 21 here. And then we know all that stuff. Good? Yeah. Okay. It'd be nice to finish this before 1. We can go visit the post-secondary fair downstairs. Determine the sum of the arithmetic series negative 16, negative 18, negative 20, negative blah, 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 minus 284. Okay, what do we know? What's T1? Negative 16. What's D? Negative 2. What's N? I don't know. What's T sub N? Okay, so we need an N, we need a T1 and a T, and we need an N. What's the first thing we got to figure out then? We got to figure out N. Okay? There is no N. Both of these formulas use an N. We've got a T1 and a Tn, so I can use this formula. We got a T1 and we got a D, so I can use this formula. But I can't use either formula without N.
Isn't the common difference 2?
I think it's negative 2.
Okay, all right.
Negative 18 minus negative 16 is negative 2. Negative 20 minus negative 18 is negative 2.
Negative 20 minus 18.
Negative 20 minus negative 18. It's not minus 18. Okay? Right, if you're going to think of this as a sequence, this sequence is negative 16, comma, negative 18, comma, negative 20. Those are the terms, right? If you wanted to, you could write this as negative 16 plus negative 18 plus negative 20, right? We don't really bother doing that. All right, so we need to go with Tn is equal to T1 plus n minus 1 times d, because we need to figure out n, right? We cannot sum this series without knowing n. It's both formulas, right? Okay, we know T sub n, it's negative 284. We know T1 is negative 16. We don't know n, but we do know that d is negative 2. That has to be in brackets, right? If that was a 5, you could write a 5 outside a set of brackets. It wouldn't be so bad. You can't write minus 2 outside a set of brackets, because then it would be subtract 2. All right, well, what are we going to do? We're going to add 16 to both sides. Right? What's that give me? Negative 268. We're going to divide both sides by negative 2. And we're going to get n is 135. Okay? So sometimes it's all written on the sheet. Worksheets. Package. Put together for you. Oh, of course. Never mind. Okay, so S sub n is n over 2. We can use either formula. Which one are we going to use? 1 or 2? First or second? We're going to use the first one, right? It's the easiest at this point. Okay, T1 plus Tn. All right, so we know it's 100. We know we're finding the sum of 135 terms. That doesn't matter so much, right? 135 over 2, negative 16 plus negative 284. And what's that? Negative 300? So it's negative, what? I mess up?
Going back to the 134 equals n minus 1. What
Yep.
that equals n plus 2? Because negative 2 times negative 1.
I divided both sides by negative 2 to get rid of that.
Oh.
Makes it easier, right? Otherwise you're going negative 2n plus 2, then you gotta move 2, and then you still have to divide by negative 2.
Alright.
So why not just divide by the negative 2, not worry about having to, right?
Yeah, okay.
Like I never expand this, right? Too much work, right? Because I gotta expand it, then I still have to, right? Then I have to subtract or add, and then I gotta divide. This way I just divide and. Anyways, what's this? 20,250. Okay. Negative 20,250, right? I mean, it makes sense that it should be negative because every term there is negative. Okay. We could get, no, we couldn't. Not with an arithmetic series. Okay. Questions on example 3?
Yeah, why couldn't you use the second equation?
You could.
The common difference. Oh.
You'd just be
So it didn't
doing a
matter.
lot more work. Okay, first equation, what do I do? I add two numbers, I multiply and I divide, right?
Okay.
Add two numbers,
Charlotte,
multiply, divide.
stop!
That's 3 operations. Here, I multiply, I subtract, I multiply, I add, I multiply, I
No, I just
divide.
wanted to know how you decided which one to use.
Oh, the easy one instead of the hard one. But you're right, yeah, we could use both, right? Either, because we knew everything.
Okay.
The only thing we didn't know was n, right? So we had to work that out separately, right? There's no choice. Like, I need n. I don't necessarily need T1, Tn, and d. I need 2 out of 3 of those.
Okay.
But actually, I need T1 and I need 1 out of. Determine the value of n for an arithmetic series if T1 is 16, T sub n is negative 35, and S sub n is negative 171.
Please excuse this announcement.
Which formula?
We would like to acknowledge and welcome our guest to Henry Wisewood for our annual Alberta Post-Secondary and Career Fair. Our event today will begin at 1 o'clock and will wind up at 3 o'clock p.m. Teachers, please refer to the email that Mr. Slim sent to you last week with the schedule of classes, and please proceed to the courtyard for our students to participate in this event. Please be sure to come down to the event with your students. Thank you, and we look forward to a successful and an informative event today. Enjoy your time.
Okay.
Why was that so?
So, I should have paused perhaps during that. Okay, so this is what the formula we're going to use, right? So watching this tonight, like, what the? Okay, so n over 2, T1 plus Tn, because that's what we've got. We've got to try and figure out n. We know S sub n. We don't know n, but we know T1 and Tn. This is negative, what, 19? So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 19. What's negative 171 divided by negative 19? 9. Okay, so 9 is n over 2, and n is 18. Okay, so it's the sum of 18 terms. Now, you know, if you're done a test early, you can go back and check this, right? Because you can use, okay, well, let's use that formula, do 18 over 2 times 16 plus negative 35, and see if I get negative 171, right? It's verifying. Yeah, okay, that's the right value of n.
What if it doesn't divide evenly?
Then it's wrong. Well, look, n is either even or odd, right? The only choice, and it can't be a decimal. N is a natural number. So, you know, if this doesn't divide evenly, then this will be even. Like one of these two will be even, so the 2 goes into it. Okay. All right, let's see. How much more do we have? 5, 6. 2 more. Okay, so we're supposed to go down at 1. Let's get through these 2, right, which will then give us time, and then we can go down, and then when we come back up, you'll still have a good half hour. determine the first term of an arithmetic series if D is 12 and S10 is 360. So in this case, we know D, we know N, we know N, we know N. So the only thing we don't know is T sub 1, right? Which is what they're trying to ask us to find.
Yeah.
So S10. So S sub N, let's write it out. Okay, so S sub N is 360 is equal to N, which is 10, 2T1, because we don't know T1, but we know N is 10, and we know D is 12. Right? All we've done is substitute in. We can now simplify. So 360 is equal to 5 times 2T1 plus 9 times 12. Divide both sides by 5. What's that going to be? 72 is equal to 2T1 plus 108. Negative 24, 34, what is it? 34, I guess. 36. Negative 36. You may want to check this with a calculator, right? I don't have a good track record today. What do we, yeah, 72 and 36 is 108, so yeah, that's it. Did you? Excellent. That's 2 thumbs up. All right, so give you a moment to copy that out. We'll do the last one. Now, I've got a question for you. We don't have a review period before the test built into the timeline. Would you like to? And all that would mean, so you'd like one? All right, so what we'll do is we're just going to take, tomorrow would have been a work period on series, but I mean, we're done this now and you'll have time. So we'll just bump everything up a day. Okay, we're just going to pull everything up one day. And so the Thursday of next week, I guess next Thursday will become a review period. Friday is off and then the test is Monday. And so you get Thursday to review, then you get the entire weekend as well.
We're not actually starting.
We will start trig on the
No, don't change it yet.
Tuesday or something.
You're seeing
Okay,
Oh.
2 more. The sum of the first 2 terms of an arithmetic.
Why can't we just not start?
If we don't start trig there, then we can test there.
Will we be able to?
Yeah, but like, why do you scroll down
Yeah.
so much?
Okay, the sum of the first 2 terms in our maybe today. The sum of the first 2 terms of an arithmetic series is 13, and the sum of the first 4 terms is 46. Determine the first 4 terms. Okay, so hang on, let's write, what do we know here? The sum of the first 2 terms is 13. The sum of the first 4 terms is 46. And we're supposed to determine the first 4 terms, right? In other words, what's T1, what's T2, what's T3, what's T4. All right, how are we going to do this?
Can you figure out the common difference?
Well, we've got a formula here, right? I mean, we know that.
Will that technically give you D? Isn't it? What if you divide it by 2, give you 1 and no? Yeah, no. Would that give you 1 and 2 if you divided them by 2?
It would give me the sum of T1 plus Tn, but it wouldn't give me T1 and Tn individual. I think we want to use this one so we can figure out D. All right, so what's going to happen? If we plug into this formula, right, S2, we'll get 2 over 2 T1 plus T2. And if we plug S4, we'll get 4 over 2 T1 plus T4. But that gives us 3 unknowns, right? We have T1, T2, and T4, none of which we know. And we only have 2 equations. So let's say we plug S2 in here. It's a 2, we'll have T1 and D as our unknowns. And if we do the same for S4, we'll have T1 and D as our unknowns, and that we can solve as a system, right? So let's do that. We're gonna do this, S sub n. So let me just write the formula down. Here's the formula we're gonna use. S sub n is n over 2, 2T1 plus n minus 1 times D. Okay, so we're gonna do S2. 13 is equal to 2 over 2, 2T1, don't know T1, right? Plus 2 minus 1 times D. Don't know D either. Okay? So there's one equation. Let's simplify this equation, right? So 2 over 2 is just 1. So 13 is equal to 2t1, right? That's 1. And that's 1 plus d. So there's one equation, right, which expresses a number in terms of t1 and d. We're going to do the same thing here. So this time we're going to do S4, right? So I'm going to say 46 is equal to 4 over 2, right? Because this time n is 2. We got 2t1, or sorry, n is 4, plus 4 minus 1 times d. So we'll take a little bit more work doing this. So that's 2 times 2t1 plus 3d. Let's divide both sides by 2. 23 is 2t1 plus 3d. So now we have 2 equations. And we have 2 unknowns. And we can solve, right? We're going to solve the system. So let's just stack the equations, one on top of the other. 23 is equal to 2t1 plus 3d. And 13 is equal to 2t1 plus d. If we subtract, the 2t1s are going to be eliminated, right? So we're solving by elimination. So 10 is equal to 2d, and d is equal to 5. Right? But now we need t1. Well, we'll just go up to here. 13, excuse me. So 13 is equal to 2t1 plus 5. 8 is 2t1, and t1 is 4. What's d? So there's your first 4 terms of the sequence, right? Now that we have t1 and d, we can just write out the sequence. 4, 9, 14, 19. And we'll do part B, and then we'll head down. It'll only be a couple minutes. Determine the sum of the first 50 terms of the series. Okay, so we're going to use the formula. This is B. We're going to use S sub n is n over 2. 2t1 plus n minus 1 times d. S 50 is 50 over 2. 2 times t1 we know is 4, plus 50 minus 1, and d we know is 5. It's always 49 times 5 for some reason. And what's that work out to?
6,325.
Is that what you got yesterday? Okay, so I'll give you a moment to copy that down. So post-secondary fare, is this, I'm not sure if this is the Alberta post-secondary or the, whatever. You guys aren't quite ready for post-secondary yet, that's another year, but it's a chance for you to go down and any of the universities you're interested in going to, get some information, talk to the people there. You know, hey, do you have any scholarships if you apply, you know, if I'm thinking of going there, are there any scholarships available if I apply in grade 11? I know at U of L there is. Right? If you are planning to go to University of Lethbridge, they have a scholarship if you apply for it before June of your grade 11 year, so before June